This is the Carle Thursday walkthrough. Carle, the official healthcare provider of Fighting Illini Athletics. Welcome back to the Thursday walkthrough presented by Carle. Martin O'Donnell here with Coach Lovie Smith. And Coach, coming off of last week's game, I think the past 2 weeks, one of the things that seems to have shown up is the defense. You know, defense showing up and certainly seems to be improving, playing with a lot of effort. We've talked about quantifying effort before. Has that borne out in your effort grades over the past 2 weeks?
Absolutely, Martin, it has, and that is something that you shouldn't take for granted that you get it each week, but you should. It has very little to do with talent. It's just a will to get defensively, a will to get to the ball. We do grade it. We give it a letter grade each play based on that, and our players have gotten better. We've had a lot of people flying around to the ball against Minnesota, as you mentioned, even a little bit before that. And then this week, you saw it all come together. Mm-hmm. You know, we played an outstanding team this past week, but you know, we had our best defensive performance, and a lot of that is getting as many guys as possible around the ball.
Well, and you know, one thing is we've talked a lot about the youth on this team, or even guys that haven't played that much, but do you sense that they're really getting a much better understanding of the defensive scheme, which allows them to play faster and get there?
Yes, they have, and it takes a little bit for guys to know that. You know, it's one thing to get to the ball, but you have to do your responsibility. And it's about trust, too. Mm-hmm. Trust in your teammate that he'll take. You're not worried about his gap, just taking your gap and your responsibility. If you have everybody with that mindset, that's when you get something done, when you build that type of trust.
Well, and now here, Purdue this week, Northwestern at the end of the year, but almost 2 times all the way through the Big Ten West. You know, so you've seen a lot of the teams that are in our division. What are your impressions of the Big Ten West this year versus last year?
Well, I was pretty impressed, of course, last year, first time out. I knew about the coaches, knew about the programs. And second year around, I mean, I see some of the same things. Mm-hmm. You know, good football programs, good football teams. You have to be ready to play each week. Some of the teams that you see are in a similar position. You know, last year, Wisconsin was one of the top teams, of course, in our division, and that's the case this year too. And it's been some coaching changes for the most part. It's the same type of action you get each week. You need to be on top of your game.
Mm-hmm. And Purdue this week, a rivalry game, one of 3 rivalry games that University of Illinois plays in. So this is actually kind of starting a stretch here over the next month or so. How much is that emphasized to the players on the team throughout the course of game week?
Quite a bit too. You know, we're playing for the Cannon this week, and when you have history with a program like that, I think it's good for them to know the history behind it, mm-hmm. and a little bit more incentive to play your best ball. We had a great game with Purdue last year. You know, we missed that field goal right before regulation. They beat us in overtime. But normally it's that type of game when you play someone that's so close to you. We're going to bus over, so we know each other well, mm-hmm. and I know both of them are pretty excited to get a win.
Well, and talked about there's, you know, some programs, Illinois being one of them, in building mode and actually, you know, physical building being talked about here at the University of Illinois. Some more details released earlier this week by Josh Whitman. What does it mean to you to have the Football Performance Center coming online here in the next couple of years?
It means everything to recruiting, and not just to recruiting, to our current players too. And it's your commitment to the football program. Most teams, though, have made commitments with their facilities, mm-hmm. and we needed to do the same thing. But for recruits coming in to see, you know, what type, our weight room, the locker rooms, you know, indoor facility connected, and just see everything works on a daily basis. And it doesn't help that it's the top of the line too. Mm-hmm. That's normally your commitment to your football program when you look at, you know, what type of facility you have.
Well, you mentioned there the indoor being connected to it. That's got to be one thing that you like about the facility.
Especially this time of the year.
Especially this time of year.
Yes.
What are some of the other aspects that are involved in it that you particularly like, that you're particularly excited about?
Of course, when you come into a new facility, it's that you won't splash initially, mm-hmm. when you walk in, but then it's the meat and potatoes of what is actually in the facility. We mentioned the weight room, locker room. Players spend a lot of time there. We want players in our facility, so player lounge is a big deal. Mm-hmm. But then just top-of-the-line meeting rooms and equipment in the meeting room. It's a new day as far as technology is concerned on how you teach on a daily basis. Our main team room where we get everybody together. So all of these things are important, you know, for an athlete. we want an athlete to come into the building and have most of his needs met where he didn't have to leave very often, except pretty much to go to class.
Well, and you talked about the role and how this helps in terms of facilities with recruiting, but overall, now, building second recruiting class, how is your and your staff's recruiting process evolved over the past, 18, 24 months, whatever it is?
Just like everything else, we like to think that it's gotten better and better. I know we have a better idea of the recruiting process. For me personally, being, in NFL, just a recruiting process and the cycle that you go through on a yearly basis, have a lot better grasp of that. Really excited about the recruiting process this year with the early signing date in December. So everything is speeded up a little bit, kind of getting ready for that initial signing date.
Well, and so I assume there's been a lot of communication between you and the current class about that early signing period. And, what are some of the other impacts that's had? I mean, is it more planning? Is it having more things prepared, well ahead of time? How has that kind of impacted your personal calendar, at least as far as recruiting goes?
Well, we've definitely had to adjust our planning in the planning stage, and especially the initial part, with second week in December, of course, with it, of just having everything set. Things we've done, like this past weekend, we had, quite a few of our athletes that used their official visit. So the process has all been speeded up a little bit to try to get them as much information for them to be able to make an early decision. Of course, throughout the summer, same thing. So we've gone through the process an awful lot, and most of the guys that we're recruiting have not been on campus and know exactly what we have to offer for them to make that good decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as the calendar's kind of turned over to November here, you pass Halloween on the way there. So have you been able, how does Halloween work in the Smith household with you being a football coach your entire life? Have you been able to participate at times? I mean, do you have any favorite costumes that your children or grandchildren have had? I mean, what's that looked like?
Well, being a 59-year-old man, Martin, I've gone through quite a few Halloweens, and of course Halloween's always during football season, and so we normally try to we have a lot of children on our staff right now. Different place I've been, we try to have some type of setup for staff at our facility. But then on that night, you try to arrange it where, to me, this is a special time in people's lives. So in an ideal world, it's always good if coaches and everybody has a chance to be with their kids just a little bit. My kids, of course, are long gone, but we have grandchildren now, and I know a few of them in Chicago they don't quite understand why Grandpa can't be there, to trick or treat with them, but we'll make up for it another time.
So if you're wearing a Halloween costume, what are you wearing?
I've never been one to wear costumes an awful lot, but I know my wife and I through the years have put an awful lot into our children's costumes.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say any, we have quite a few grandkids, and we have quite a few different costumes that I know that they're looking forward to wearing.
Okay, so no Batman, Superman. You're gonna dress up the Incredible
Superman,
Hulk, maybe.
Wonder Woman, the Flash. We have
behind the scenes.
We have a little of it all. I'll just say that.
Okay, well, Coach, thanks for taking time, and thanks for stopping through the Thursday walkthrough. This is the Carle Thursday walkthrough. Carle, the official healthcare provider of Fighting Illini Athletics.
Looking for a card that gives you more? Illini Visa Rewards Card. Earn points every day to fly any airline, anytime, no blackout dates. The Illini Visa Rewards Card. Available only through U of I Community Credit Union.